athlete, you'll die an athlete. It's in your DNA.
You're an athlete. Live like an athlete so that you can be successful in life.
You're an athlete. Live like it.
ANA, America needs athletes. Welcome, athletes, into another episode of the Gym Closet. I'm here, as always, with Amber.
What up?
And also, we got a special guest today, Dan Weir. He has been with us previously. He was kind of a regular for about a year.
And he got booted up. No.
Didn't make the cut.
That was back when we only had 4 locations, and him and Zach were regulars, and now they're too busy to come into the podcast, so which is a good thing. So that's awesome. Oops. If this is the first time joining us, Krave Gym is the Gym Closet is a Krave Gym podcast, and our mission here is to help all of our athletes dominate the sport of life. And what that means is basically, getting through all of the bullshit that's online and spitting some straight truth to get you on the path to dominating the sport of life through your fitness and everything you do in life. So thank you for joining us. Like I said, Dan, today we're doing a series. We had Fee on last week, and we're doing a series to kind of get to know some of our athletes and our coaches. Dan is the head coach at West Des Moines and has been crushing it there for now, how many years? 2 years? 3 years? No,
it was in May. In May, it will be 3 years at the West Des Moines location.
Okay, yep.
But all in all, total 4 years with Krave back in March.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So then getting to a couple anniversaries of being with us as a coach, and we'll talk a little bit about going from coach to head coach, but then with us for 3 years at West Des Moines. Everybody at West Des Moines knows Dan, and if you are at a different location and haven't met Dan, I definitely encourage you, go get a training session at West Des Moines and say hi to Dan. Yeah. But now you're going to kind of recognize not only the head coaches here in the next couple of weeks, but also some of our athletes. And what we're trying to do is just build the team, tell our stories, tell our athletes' stories and our coaches' stories, so that we can kind of be closer as a team. And as we continue to grow, we want to make sure that we're keeping the core of the team kind of at the center stage. And so this is a good format, I think, to do that. So tell us kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Another thing I can't think of.
Journey.
The journey of Dan, kind of what do you call it at the end of a book or something? Your
like a
bio. What does bio stand
I would
for?
Immediately think conclusion, but
The biography?
Yeah.
Okay,
Biography.
all right. Hey, coming in clutch.
well, you're hired back on.
Testing my vocab here. So we're going to get the biography kind of starting, what was it like for you growing up? What's kind of your details, before playing sports and life before Krave Gym?
Yeah. Honestly, I really can't remember a time before sports. Like, I started playing tackle football, full pads, everything in like kindergarten.
Awesome.
Jeez.
Yeah.
When you could do it at a young
Like pretty much like since I could walk, I was doing that. But I mean, that's kind of always been my life, really. Whether it was football, baseball, did basketball, wasn't very good. Sure. But then like ran track, and just like that's everything that I've always done. And then grew up in a really small town in southern Iowa, and kind of brought the idea and format of tackle football there. They were already kind of starting getting into that, but then when I had come in, me and my dad were ones like, hey, we've already done this before. It was put on by the college down there, and then we were really kind of a staple into getting into the league down there, which was kind of cool, because that was the first time that they had ever had it. It was only like middle school, high school, and college down there that had tackle football down there. So it was kind of cool. But yeah, I just grew up in a really small town, moved around a little bit. I was in Wichita, Kansas for about 4 years or so, and then moved to Lamoni, lived there from, probably since I was like 5 all the way until the summer of my freshman year. I went up to Ames, went to school there for 2 years, and then moved back down south to Leon, and that's where I graduated, and then went to Central College and played baseball there.
Awesome. So talk a little bit about kind of your collegiate baseball career and kind of what baseball was like in school. Obviously, we're all at Krave, we're all about, living like an athlete, past sports. Most of our athletes at Krave have had some sort of athletics or experience on a team before, and that helps kind of mold all of our athletes in a way that we're trying to recapture. When you get out of sport, you basically turn off that a lot of people don't have the opportunity to jump back on a team of any sort once you're done with, whatever level you get to. You were lucky enough to play college baseball, so you had that team. Talk a little bit about what college was like with your team, and then kind of the transition post team, because I think a lot of people can relate to having that athletic career and then retiring from athletics, and a lot of people, I think myself and Amber included, have been lost once you're not on that team. So talk a little bit about college and then what that transition looked like for you.
Yeah. So I went to Central and went there with one of my high school best friends, played baseball. Unfortunately, he left after the first semester, and I was still with all the guys doing all that kind of stuff. So got to really know everyone on the team through all of like the practices, all the games, all the traveling, all of that kind of stuff, and got really connected with everyone there. Ended up getting a house pretty much down there with 10 other guys on the same team. So that was really cool.
That's always like the most fun.
Yeah, like when we signed up for housing, we had a whole group of us, and we're just like, yep, we're gonna take this house, and it's gonna be ours. Right? Yeah. And just through that, I mean, it's unfortunately I don't talk with that friend a lot anymore, and I still stay connected with like all those other 10 guys that we've been in each other's weddings. If anybody's passing through, we get connected with them, stay up on social media and all that kind of stuff. So that bond in just playing sports like is really unbroken. And it's like whenever you hear people like, oh, you're really good friends, you don't have to talk for months or even years in between, and you can pick up right where you left off. That's exactly what it's been like with those 10 guys.
That's awesome.
Which is really cool, yeah. But then like the biggest thing, I think, you spend every day with those guys or with whoever you're on the team with, from the day you walk onto campus till the day you leave for summer. And then sometimes you even, for us, we had summer ball, so people in the Des Moines area would get together, be on the same team. So you're really spending almost all 4 years every single day with those guys. Training, eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, study halls, practice outside of practice and things like that. So you just get to know everybody pretty almost like from the day that they were born. You get to hear their story and just hang out with them and be a new part of their story.
Definitely. So what was your transition then like when those 10 guys, you guys are graduating, and you're left kind of without your team? What does that kind of look like? And then where did that lead kind of the next stage of your life?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was difficult. It was hard because, like I said, you spend those 4 years with them, and then that's all you know, pretty much. But then after that, I was lost. Like, I wanted to try to find summer baseball to continue the sport, because having that connection, that's kind of what I was striving for. But then like on the training side of things as well, is I was just left on my own. Found a gym, just a big box gym that just had a bunch of equipment, and then tried to find a training partner, somebody that I could be like, hey, when are you going in? What are you doing? What, that kind of stuff. And it was hard because, one, we moved down to St. Louis, so I didn't know anybody. And then the gym was a place where I could find somebody that is similar in the fitness mindset of doing that. And so got connected with one of the guys there, trained with him until we moved back. And then that's where I found Krave. And I was like, holy shit. Like, I didn't know what I was missing in the fact of training with a team, doing strength and conditioning workouts, because it was just, I was going in the gym, would find stuff online or through an app and then do that. But there was I didn't have that feeling of I was back on a baseball team. I had these 10 guys that I could hang out with and do whatever, hang out on weekends and do all that stuff.
Definitely.
Another thing that I think about too is in our situation, we got our master's in kinesiology, so we knew programming and stuff. But a lot of athletes too, they miss their team. Plus, they could get business degrees or finance degrees, and a lot of people don't know how to make a workout either, or how to train strength and conditioning. I always say it's nice that we had that knowledge, because a lot of people are just left dry from their team, the community, the workout aspect of it too. Yeah,
so. Yeah, and I did exercise science, health promotion, so I knew how to program. Yeah. I did personal training, did all that stuff. So I knew how to program it. I knew rep ranges and all of that kind of stuff. But the other thing that I was missing was also having somebody there to be like, you need to do this.
Right.
the cardio portion, running like sprints or doing burpees or doing challenges like agility and that kind of stuff. Like
it.
I wouldn't have done that if it was just by me, but you know, when you're with your team, like then you're all doing it, then you're getting competitive and doing things like that. But then at that point, it's just you're doing it on your own kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think the cool part about kind of our situations is most people get into that situation and then, you know, unless they find Krave and they find a team again, they're on their own for everything. Not only do we get to find Krave and be in that environment, but we also get to coach that environment. So like the accountability and everything there is a little bit different for a coach, I think too. How do you kind of think about it as, because you do a ton of different things, right? So you do all of the races and you're big in high rocks right now, and you know, the different types of, call it like extracurricular races and stuff that you've accomplished. A lot of that is like you had said, the cardio that nobody's making you do. But now, do you feel, and I've always kind of felt this way, do you feel like you are, because you're telling other people that and coaching other people that they need to do it, that responsibility ultimately falls on yourself to do it yourself?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's kind of funny is like, if somebody else is going to do something like hard, then like I want to do it too. But
Right.
like, I'm not just going to tell somebody to like, hey, you need to go do this and then not do it. One, because I'm competitive and
Right.
I don't want to lose.
Yeah.
So if somebody's going to do something hard, I'm going to do it.
Hey, last week Fee said he beat you.
We'll talk about that later. But yeah, I mean, like I do have like feel like a sense of responsibility. If I'm going to tell somebody to do something, then I'm going to do it as well too.
Definitely.
Just by like, hey, then I can go through their struggle, right? Like then I can help them find the right answer of, if it's like running, like, hey, I'm going to do this as well too. And then now I can be in your shoes and say like, oh, hey, this is what we need to do. This is what's helped me, doing that kind of stuff. So kind of put myself in their shoes and make sure that, you know, I'm helping along the way and shoot, like, yeah, Fee beat me. I can help him get better, but then also like on the side, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that next time he doesn't beat me.
Right.
Yeah.
I love
He
it.
did give props to you for pushing him, because he's like, I wouldn't have beat him if he wasn't right there yelling in my ear.
Right,
So
yeah.
it's cool to see that, right? It's
Right.
like you have to be competitive to some extent, but you also have to be a team player. And that
Yeah.
was really cool to see that. And good for Fee, because who would have ever thought, you know? And he would say
Right.
the same, like, he beat you and Justin. It's pretty cool to see that.
Yeah.
From his transformation.
With like the coaching element and everything that you're doing, what does that kind of lead to? We talk about at Krave all the time, we talk about not only, you know, you need to live like an athlete, not only train like an athlete, but live like an athlete. How has, you know, being a head coach at Krave and having that athletic mindset, how does that kind of form your life and kind of, you know, take your life as far as what direction you may have ever gone, and keeping that athletic mindset and finding Krave and having that atmosphere all the time? How does that kind of help in every other aspect of your life?
I could probably do a million examples. I think the biggest, like when you're saying that, the biggest thing is like the leadership and the accountability portion of being a head coach. I have the responsibility for not only the coaches, but the athletes as well too, of making sure, one, everybody's taken care of, they get what they need, but also a responsibility to allow them to reach their goals, right? Whether it's nutrition goals, whether it's strength goals, or just education and wanting to know more. Relating all of that leadership and accountability into my own life of how do I get better every day? And one thing that always sticks in my mind is get 1% better every day. What did I do yesterday that I can do better today? Right? Whether that's, you know, reading either leadership books or listening to leadership podcasts or things like that. What's going to allow me to progress in a positive way? And I think that's just like even in sports too, is like, okay, I know where I'm at from when I stepped onto the field the first time. What can I do better to get that starting role? Or what can I do to increase my batting average or do those kind of things? And it's another thing that you always hear is like, you put all the work in when it's dark, and then when the lights are on, that's when you shine, right? So all of that work just gets put in on the backside of it. But I think the two big things, just the leadership and the accountability, and taking, I guess, responsibility as well too for helping athletes achieve their goals, but doing the right things to achieve my goals and goal setting.
Definitely. And I think that example, the example of living, seeing yourself, knowing that you have to have progress in your own life, knowing that you have to set your goals and you have to, do the little things right every day. I think that's something that as a coach, you're living it to where you can then, preach it or coach it to other people, because your goals might not be, the same as someone that works in a big insurance firm or, works for Wells Fargo or whatever, but just the fact that setting goals and taking accountability in those things help them progress in their career. I mean, we know that you've progressed in your career, at Krave tremendously because of the mindset of, okay, today I'm going to get 1% better. What are, reaching out to us and figuring out, okay, what are things, even at just analyzing your situation, whether it's, we go through a bunch of KPIs and business stuff on each gym level. And that helps us to say, okay, what can I do better? And then continuously working on those things. But that's the athletic mindset, right? That's the thing that is going to help, help you personally in your life. But then that's the stuff that if you didn't do that at a high level, it would be very tough to, in my opinion, to tell other people to do it in their life. And I think that that's one thing that we've seen in you is that, you live it, you're able to coach that in everyone else because you do such a good job of taking your goals and knocking them down one at a time, boom, 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 and having the athletic mindset to continue to progress.
It feels natural for you, right? It's like, it's your passion. Like you can tell that you're so fulfilled with the different roles that you play, whether that's coaching up the coaches, coaching athletes, like at the Barbell Classic, like you were just right in your zone doing that.
Yeah.
And it's been really fun seeing you be able to, wherever your leadership is needed, you step into that role and you do a really good job.
Thank you.
So the other thing that we talked to Fee a little bit about where we're excited, he had mentioned like he had got a couple like thanks for helpings right in the Barbell Classic, and he said, I was just backstage helping whatever I could, whatever. So that's one thing that we had touched on last week is I said how excited I am to see that come through, because you're going to be changing lives and you're going to not only have people say you helped me do X, Y, and Z, my goal of whatever was accomplished, and you're a big part of that. One thing that I really love about your goals is you've set the goal not to, as far as your career stuff, it's not necessarily, we have the KPIs and the numbers and all of that fun stuff, but I think that the cool part that I see with you is you've taken it a step further and talked about, hey, I want to impact, 100 lives this year. And so if I can change 100 lives this year, then that is my ultimate goal. And all of the numbers, all of that other stuff kind of trickles down from that. Because if you're changing lives, especially in the fitness industry, that's the important stuff, right? That's the stuff that that all the other things will fall into place if we're just doing our jobs and changing lives and affecting people in a positive way. Talk about a little bit your mindset when it came to kind of whether it was a realization at some point that you were like, hey, this is my ultimate goal, or what kind of led you to set that goal of changing and impacting 100 lives in a year?
Yeah, I think in the beginning of like this role, I think I was probably more set on let's make this gym have 500 members.
Sure.
And then the switch flipped to be like, well, it's not about the numbers, it's about the people. And when looking at it that way and helping more people, then like what you just said, everything kind of falls into place. And so when it was that realization and being like, oh, like I helped this person, and it was like the happiness that like their eyes lit up, they loved the number that they saw either on the bar or on the scale and things like that. I was like, okay, they smiled, that made me smile, and now I'm helping them and not so much worried about the other stuff off to the side. And I think I was more fulfilled when I saw that realization in somebody else of like, hey, like I impacted them, I helped, I didn't give this to them, I helped them, I led them down this path to be successful, and then that's what fulfilled me.
Definitely.
With it.
it takes pressure off too, because
You're
this
right.
is a sales role, right? You're in a sales role.
Yeah.
We all are. And it's to the end of the day, it's like, if we don't get to know that person and what they truly want and what their goals are, and we just show them a piece of paper and say, here's the price, there's no relationships that's built, right? And you can't close that sale. You don't impact that person. You're just impacting the gym, and the stress can be on you when you focus so much on just numbers, and you don't build those relationships. And so that's so important, because ultimately we might not be the best gym for everybody, right? But if we can know their goals and know what they're looking to achieve, there's a really good chance that we can help them.
Yeah.
And then you just always, when you get that person to join the team, now you're having those conversations still, right? And they're saying, oh my gosh, Dan, thanks for talking me into doing this, because I have done X, Y, and Z. And then now you've impacted their life because you built that trust with them and they joined the team.
Right. Yeah. And I think like one other big thing, like saying, is like have that give a shit factor. And you could tell if somebody is faking it or like being genuine, and just like asking why.
Right.
It's like, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do that? And then actually digging deep and actually caring like what they want to do and why they want to do it.
And people can feel that. And if they feel you have a sense that you actually care, then they're going to be like, hey, Tyler, you should come to this gym with me, because they actually care about us. They just don't want the sale.
Right. Yep.
I think that's a big difference between like a big box gym compared to what we do at Krave. Is we have the ability, we don't have 5,000 members. We have the ability to really get to know every single one of our members. And just like the 10 guys that you hung out with every single day, we can go to events, we can do things outside of the gyms with our athletes and really cement that relationship, which is really cool. And I think an advantage to us versus like a big box gym that may know a lot of their members as a number, their number 2053, and they don't know what that person's goal is, what they, want to accomplish not only in the gym, but in life. And so if we can take that relationship, I think that's the biggest thing that sets us apart at Krave than to any other gym out there is like you said, that give a shit factor is so big. And I think the other cool part is, not only for the development of our athletes and their physical goals and living like an athlete outside of the gym, but then also like you've had several coaches that have like we've taken your coaches, and Anson went over to Ankeny. And so I think that I got to give a shout out to you for not only developing the athletes, but also developing the coaches and making sure that the coaches are seeing their path to being able to continue to help. And I think that they feed off of that give a shit factor, and it just creates, a top down culture that, if you care and you're training the coaches to care and they care, now the athletes can feel that not only from you on a personal scale, but then from every single coach that they work with. You've trained every coach to say, this is what actually matters. Let's focus on these things. And when these things are accomplished, everyone's going to accomplish their goals, including the coaches. So huge shout out to you for having that kind of coaching tree and that training, because that's a tough part of this job that definitely takes a side if you're only worried about numbers and making phone calls and doing all of this kind of stuff, to really be organized and train the coaches, because that's ultimately, I think, what I've identified as, that's the main thing that our athletes are seeing are the coaches. You don't coach every single one of them in training sessions every single day, right? But their coaches are now a reflection of you, and if you train them well, then it's all going to be, everyone's going to be able to accomplish their goals. So I think that's super cool. So let's talk a little bit now. Let's pivot to your training and kind of what you've accomplished on the, like we called it, extracurriculars, but doing races and all that kind of stuff. Touch on, now this is going to feel like bragging a little bit, but touch on a little bit about what have you done, in the extra races and some of the things that you've done, and what are you, planning and training for in the future?
This is when we need a drop of the song, He's a Psycho.
I
think I'm always on your,
like a psycho.
I think I'm always in your DMs like, you guys are nuts. You're crazy. Nope.
I don't know. I don't know why I like getting punished, but I do. Now, I'll give Fee credit on this one, because he introduced me to the first event that I did. And I never thought I'd do any like obstacle races or run a half marathon or anything like that. And then just one day Fee was like, hey, do you want to do this virtual, like take a video, you have to do 3 workouts. Sure, I'll do it. It was run a mile, 3-rep max squat and a 3-rep max shoulder press, and then you did thrusters and burpees. And I was like, all right, cool, I'll give it a shot. And then that ended up turning into, I got the top 21 to go to an Eastern regional. And I was like, oh shit, okay, like this is real. And like, I was like, okay, what did I get into? And then just started training through that. I had no idea what I was doing because I'd never done anything combined like that before, where you're lifting as heavy as possible, but then also running as fast as possible for not just like a sprint, but you're running a mile in a sprint and trying to beat 20 other guys. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to give this a shot. So we went out to North Carolina.
Is that Battle Bunkers?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay,
So yeah, Battle Bunker. Went out to North Carolina and competed in that. And they took the top 10 from that regional and then the Western regional, which was like 2 weeks later, which was great. I mean, the endurance portion wasn't the best, but then the strength portion was awesome. And so that's really where my numbers boosted my placement up. And I ended up getting top 10 in that.
Awesome.
And I was like, all right, well, that's cool. What they did with the top 10, then you get an invite to go to San Diego to compete in Hypercon games. And I was like, all right, well, that's really cool. And I get to go to the Olympic Training Center in San Diego, get to go to Coronado and do all that kind of stuff. So like had like my family out there, made a mini vacay and things out there. And that was like my first time ever seeing like athletes like this. And I was like, holy crap, like these guys are running sub 5 miles and deadlifting like 700 pounds. I was like, why am I here? These people are nuts. These people are crazy. But overall, I mean, that was super, super fun. And then going through that, I did train for the half marathon. It was fun until mile 12. And I was like, why the hell did I want to do a full marathon? Like, this sucks. But it's, again, that the sense of accomplishment. Like, I can check off that I ran a half mile. I can check off that I did Hypercon games, Battle Bunker, that kind of stuff. And competitiveness. Yeah. So that was really cool. Being out there, it was a 2-day event. And then the race director for Hypercon is one of the world champions in High Rocks. And I didn't even know that. And then somebody was like, did you know who like Hunter McIntyre is? And I was like, well, I know him in this realm. Right. And then started following him. I was like, oh shit, like this dude is like a world champion. And I was like, that's pretty damn cool.
That's awesome.
And then so that got me into doing more races, and like we had done the Gladiator in Boone, and then we're like, all right, well, there's a High Rocks in Chicago, so let's start training for that. Did that. We had a couple DECA miles and DECA fits around the Midwest that we went and did, and now just being competitive and not wanting anybody to beat me. Justin signed up for a DECA Fit Ultra, and I haven't signed up for it yet, but I'm going to. It's on camera, so I will do that. So that's in Fort Wayne, Indiana at the end of summer.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
And so I'm like, well, if you're going to do it, I can't let you do that. Because, like, he and I are back and forth. I beat him by 4 seconds here. He beat me by a minute. I beat him at the event that we just went to a couple weeks ago. So having that competitive edge. But we got that in the end of August, doing some deadlift competitions and things like that, like on some weekends throughout the summer. And then just continuing to train we're going to do High Rocks in Chicago again in November.
Cool.
Nice.
So what's been your favorite one, you think, out of all of them? Like, do you have a favorite that you did?
I'd say overall, probably High Rocks is my favorite. But like all of them are fun. Just being around everybody. The deadlift competitions are super cool. Seeing some people deadlift 700-800 pounds, which is crazy. The DECAs are pretty fun. I'm curious to see how this one will go.
Are DECAs all the same? Like, you know exactly what you're doing? Same with the High Rocks?
Same with High Rocks. They're all standard. You all have this many meters on the ergs. You have this many meters for running. The weights are the same and things like that. Same thing with High Rocks. But High Rocks was just different just because there's so many people and so many things going on at once. Right. Where they have a wave every 10 minutes and you're just running and running. You may be running next to a person that just started and you're just ending, or you may be running next to a person that started 6 waves before you and doing it. And that's the other really cool thing is like, you don't have to be an elite athlete to do it. There was all shapes and sizes and all ages of people there. There's people in their 70s, 80s, like doing it, and there was like people that were 16 or 18 doing it. That's a cool thing.
Popular. Super. So did you get into the Chicago one already, or have you not registered yet?
Not yet.
Because I was gonna say, does it fill up fast? Probably.
Yeah, they do. They sell out pretty quick, but that won't drop for like probably another couple of months or so. But I mean, you buy your ticket and and then get to train. Yeah, so I don't know why I pay to put myself through torture, but
Says every Krave athlete.
right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but no, it's been really fun. It's been really fun, and just getting like in different avenues and just seeing like what else is out there is really cool.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about that is the athletes see you doing these extra things, see some of the other athletes doing them with you, and then we had a record number of girls doing the completely different competition, but it's something else to train for in the Barbell Classic, and being able to do those different things. So the cool thing is there's whatever you're into, there's so many different avenues to take your training and go test it, and we try to do a lot of that at Krave with different challenges and different things, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we can kind of create some of these events, and now that we're at 6 locations, we can kind of bring those athletes and maybe do some opens, and we did the Summer Slam a couple was that 2 years ago now?
Probably.
And so we're going to be looking into doing some more stuff like that. But seeing the athletes see you and then look to do some of these extra testing themselves type of events is really awesome.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and just anytime that I talk with anybody about it, they're like, oh, like that seems so hard. And I was like, it is hard, but you're not competing to be like in first place, right? You can get there, but it's training and doing it to complete it and get a time or get a weight, right? Like even with like the Women's Barbell Classic, I'm like, you absolutely could win. Right? You could put in the work, you can get the weights, you can do all that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's your personal best. It's your personal record. So like go for that, and then whatever that result is, then if you win, great. But at the end of the day, you have your personal record. Right? Because then you're chasing a record for you, and you're not chasing a record, or you're not chasing something because of somebody else. You're not chasing that other person, right? I'm going to beat them. It's like, if you do, great. But you got to start doing the stuff for you first, and then go that way.
And there's a ton of accountability along the way, a ton of commitment along the way, and in order to perform your best, you're putting in extra effort, whether it's in Krave sessions or coming in on your own to train specifically for whatever event you're doing, or even just like developing better habits in the kitchen and figuring out, okay, I'm an athlete, I have this other stuff, these other goals, and I need to tighten up my performance or my food that's going in to fuel my performance, right? So it all kind of wraps in, and that's that athletic mindset, right? We're going to achieve more and continue to progress past what we've done in the past, and that's ultimately you're competing against yourself, which is awesome with all of those.
And I think a lot of those women hit PRs.
Oh yeah.
But it's a mindset shift, right? And that's huge. When they go up there, it's a big stage to perform on.
It is, yeah.
And if they have that more of that mindset, it's empowering for them.
How cool is it that
Definitely.
How cool is it to push yourself above what you thought you could do, and then go back into a team's training session the next time you do deadlift, that you just did 300, which you never thought was possible for you, and now when you're training, what your PR is, and now instead of working out with 135, you're going to 185, 200, and repping those ones out because you've hit the 300 or whatever the case might be, right? Or even if it's a race, that you've hit this speed and these type of things. So now you can, on your daily workouts, when you're getting 1% better, you can continue to push yourself and get better in that because you've seen what the limit is that you've pushed yourself. And if you don't ever test yourself on those limits, then you don't know, you can kind of have this false sense of security and keep doing the same pace or keep doing the same weight without pushing yourself in your day-to-day training, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you how many crazy looks I got of like telling them what weights to do. It's like, yeah, go for it, and they're like,
are you
why?
sure?
Yeah, are you sure? I'm like, you can do it, and then end up going there hitting it like Brittany hit 400. And I
wish I could have stayed for hers, but that was at the
it was at the very end. Yeah, one of the last ones.
That's a long event because there's so many people, and they move quick though.
Oh yeah.
There's no hardly standing around. It's go.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I told her a couple weeks. I was like, I think she was going for like 385 or 395, and I was like, fuck it, go for 405. She's like, no, and I was like, and then she goes up there. I'm like, go for it. Yeah. And then
what do you got to lose, right?
Yeah. I was like, just go for it. If you do it, great. If not, okay.
What do you lose?
Who cares? Yeah. Exactly. And then fucking hit it, and then the after result is is awesome.
Yeah, those are awesome. And the thank yous and all of that kind of stuff as a coach, those mean so much because you push them to a level they may not have accomplished on their own. And I think just in general in life, that's huge, because if you have someone that sees from the outside different milestones or different things that you can do to just make you think bigger, that's the ultimate goal of any coach or any friend or anybody that's looking out for your best interest, is take that just a little bit higher. Push yourself just a little bit more, because maybe you don't see what you could accomplish, or maybe there's that fear factor of, go for the promotion and do the extra shit, because if someone's coaching you and telling you just to go do it, because you might be, what do they say? A lot of people are paralyzed with just the fear of not accomplishing that certain thing. But at the end of the day, most people, when you look at that certain thing, the negative, if you didn't accomplish that, there's nothing lost, right? And so someone just to point out that is huge in people's lives. And I think that's a huge benefit for coaches.
I'm on the Lead Connect. It's on my phone and it's on my computer. So that next day, I believe I saw a message pop up. It's like, thank you so much. And they're like heartfelt. Like, I mean, the thank yous you got, they weren't just like, thanks, Dan, for your help yesterday.
Right, yeah.
It was like from the heart of those athletes. Like, know that you impacted their lives so much, and it was really, really cool to see that.
Yeah. I mean, even there, like, if they're just even thinking about it, get like a little like lump in my throat. Like, it was cool.
Yeah.
I'm a big crier, but I was in the crowd, like getting emotional, seeing people on the team that I didn't even know. I don't even know the athlete, but I know that I helped in some small way coach the coach who's coaching that athlete. And in some way, if I had a hand in doing any of that, like even from the third degree of helping in some facet, like that's what continues to make me, like we talked about it when we're opening up a new location. Why do you open up a new location? Well, you do it because you have a finite, a demographic of 5 miles or so around your location of people that you can help. And then if you open one in Sioux Falls, now you just opened it up to being able to help hundreds of people in a place where you couldn't necessarily help them in the capacity that we do at Krave if we didn't open a location somewhere else. And so like to see that kind of, that's what fills my cup. And I know all of the coaches kind of feel the same way in some capacity. If you can feel like you helped lives at some level, that's so big. And so I was in the crowd tearing up, like, and I didn't even know a girl that was, just hit her PR. And I was like, yeah, I was super excited for someone that I didn't even know personally, but she was on the Krave team and pushed herself to go above and beyond. And that just meant a ton to me too.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Awesome. Well, that's kind of, any other questions that you have?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Anything else you have to say, or
no? You want to do High Rocks in Chicago in November? Let me know.
They
we got a team.
We
We
got
got a squad.
Yeah, we got like 12 people already that are talking about it. So that'll be fun. And then
And in this video, can you post a link to that? I'm sure they have a link.
You can just go to the website.
Yeah, just go to their website or whatever. But then people can read more, because they might be like, "Wait, what's this about? Want more information?"
Yeah.
And we'll get Krave team gear printed up. Everybody that does it, everybody will know that you're on the team.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, like all the training that we do here at Krave, like it lines up very well with training for that. So you don't really have to change anything. It's just doing.
That's what's really cool. I think about
little extra
about those extra things, right? Is when you train strength and conditioning like you do at Krave, you're training the fundamentals of being a better athlete. And then I always think of it like strength and conditioning. If you're a football player, baseball player, whatever, you go to practice then to learn how to hit better. But you go to strength and conditioning in college to make you a better athlete so that you can hit better with that skill. So it's the same thing with all of these other goals and all of these extracurricular activities that you can do. There's probably some skill sets that you want to practice, and just because a specific movement may be done in a high rocks race or a powerlifting, certain cues when you're powerlifting, when to, there's certain cues when to bench. You're holding it until the judge says, and you're not racking until the judge says. So
Allie would know that, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Some of those things, you want to practice, but those practices can be above and beyond. Those can be on your active rest days so that you get the skills necessary and you're building the foundation every day in a strength and conditioning session at Krave. So it kind of goes hand in hand with doing all those extra fun stuff. So,
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. Glad that that Dan could join us. Thank you for being on here
thank
with
you
us
so much.
as well. And remember, you're an athlete. Live like it.
You're born an athlete, you'll die an athlete. It's in your DNA.
Live like an athlete so that you can be successful in life.
You're an athlete. Live like it.
ANA, America needs athletes.